First order of business is the minutes of the past meeting. Is there a second?
Second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Number 2 is the claims. We have claims. Any discussion?
Move to approve.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do a roll call, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Marcet,
That's right.
Yes.
Bernard,
Yes.
Vansel.
Aye. Yes.
Burchell.
Yes. Application for operator's license. There's a list there. I can read the list for the staff recommendations to approve regular operator's license from the period of 5/3/11 to 6/30/12. Sean Atkinson, Brooknell Balf, Kara Hendrickson, Tanya Katire, Kaylee McNamara, Stephen Shank, and Timothy Warkin. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And to renew the issuance of regular operator license for the period of 7/1/11 to 6/30/13, Jennifer Baraboo, Celine DeMars, Bobby Joe Harshman, Amy M. Hun, Allison Johnson, Thomas Madison, John Moran, and Holly Joe Webb. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And to issuance of temporary operator's license to be used July 1st through the 3rd, 2011 during the Hudson Booster Days in Lakefront Park to the following: John Herrick, Scott Newell, and Ryan Schwackler, excuse me. Is there a motion to approve? Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And we have a request for change of liquor license agent for Applebee's and Keys Cafe. Madam Clerk, is there you see any issues there with, been approved by everyone?
These are just regular requests for agent changes. There's no issues. The paperwork is in order. Recommend
Okay.
approval.
So the applicant, we have the names there, yes.
Move to approve the agent changes. The Peace Cafe to Elizabeth Lambert and Applebee's Neighborhood Grill and Bar to Catherine Rivers.
Okay,
I'll second it.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Request to use technology funds for server update. Mr. Kruger.
Last year when we did the upgrade on the phone system here and installed a new phone system at First Street, we had a capital fund set aside for that. To a large degree, Baldwin did an excellent job and were able to lower the costs, and there's about $9,000 remaining from the phone system that we put in the library, the police, and here. And that's in a capital fund. I would request that we use that, bring that forward to this year to upgrade our server software and our server hard drive capacity in our IBM server.
Okay. Anyone have any questions on that?
So are we getting any new functionality with that, or is it just additional?
For the hard drive server space, we have been growing exponentially with scanning documents in, and we're running out of space. The operating system will give us more functionality with the web. It's about 6 years newer than what we currently have in there. So when we redo our website, it'll give us more functionality to connect and to take the data that we have on our servers and present it on our website to the public.
And that's one of the other projects that's been approved already, is the website
Yes,
update? Yeah.
yes.
Rich, any questions?
No.
Randy?
Move for approval.
Is there a second? Okay. Any other discussion? Do you know the dollar amount, or when we'll get the dollar amount?
We have it 9,000.
346.
Is it gonna come right to that number?
Well, no, that's what, well,
That's what we have left. We will go out for a bid on the.
Okay, not to exceed the.
Right, not to
Okay.
exceed that. We
That's-
can do it for that, I'm sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's, no, I said, we already had. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Request from Barry Stipe for Stipe shows Carnival May 5th through the 8th at the Plaza Center. I think they've been coming here for 10 years, and you know it's going to rain this weekend because they're here in town. Any issues, Madam Clerk?
The only thing that we ask is that he get a direct seller license, and he's been made aware of that, so that should be coming in the next day or so, and then recommend approval.
Okay. The motion to approve.
I'll move to approve contingent upon the direct seller license.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, application of the Hudson Boosters for special event permit designation has a community event for Booster Days, July 1st through the 3rd.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. Can we make this contingent upon, there's still something going through Public Works with regard to barricade
Sure.
usage and,
Okay, yeah, let's hear Nancy.
Yeah, the only thing we wanted to make sure for the boosters is that they would like to be considered a community event, so they don't have to get direct seller licenses for the vendors that are selling things there, and that also they need, or they would like to have that insurance coverage reduced to $1 million instead of $3 million as the special event permit requires.
We've done that for at least the last 6, 7 years, or longer than
Yeah,
that.
every time that they've gotten a special event permit, the reduction is allowed.
What about Lori's comment on, we're still working on the,
well, it's on our Public Works agenda tomorrow. I don't anticipate it's gonna be any issue, with regard to additional cost. I can't say because we haven't addressed it in Public Works. They need to just be aware that it's coming through and.
okay?
They do have a member of the boosters is here tonight, so maybe he wants to speak to that.
Well, then, go ahead. You know,
No, I was just curious a little bit about the barricade issue. I guess I had heard of it in past meetings, past Public Works meetings, and it sounded like there was a possibility of charges or whatever.
I don't want to speak for the Public Works Committee, but I think there's going to be opportunities for barricades or things to be picked up at no charge.
Okay,
So that's what I'm saying. I'm not anticipating it's going to necessarily add any cost.
okay.
But just to be aware that some of those changes may be enacted before that time. But I can't
Okay.
speak for the committee or how they'll vote on
Okay.
it. Or even if something will be enacted before the booster days.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions?
So the motion includes the,
Contingency on Public Works approval of any barricade
and
policy.
the $1 million reduction.
Right, that's in the recommendations.
Is that okay with an,
That's fine.
okay? Any other discussion? No problems, a community event. We've done this for years and years. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion carries. And we have an application for the Hudson Boosters, Inc. for a temporary Class B retailer's license to sell beer and wine July 1st through the 3rd.
Move for approval.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 9, application for annual fireworks paraphernalia seller permits. We have 4 permits: Menards on Gateway Boulevard, Freedom Value Center on 2nd Street, Fleet Farm of Menominee on Industrial Street, and Charles Walker TNT Fireworks, Walmart, and Target, Cooley Road. Madam Clerk.
There was just one additional consideration here, and that would be that Denny Darnold requested that the Freedom Value Center receive sign approval from him.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve with that, with the recommendation?
So you are contingent on signs that they put up, or
Mr.
ones that are already up that are in violation?
Last year, they put up a lot of signs, they put some balloons on the roof and so forth. I asked them to take them down. They took them down. About 2 days before July 4th, they put them back up. And so I'm just asking, for them to submit a plan so we get their written cooperation on the signage, that's all.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be over stringent, I'm just, just make them cognizant of what the regulations are before they move ahead, so.
But that would apply to all the applicants? I mean, if anyone wants to put up a sign, they'd need.
Well, I mean, that's the only one I had trouble with last year. I mean, the rest of them, if you want to require of all of them, that's fine. I'm okay with that
Okay.
too, yeah. It's a matter of consistency then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I would make a motion that we approve the permits contingent on their attendance of the mandatory meeting that is in the recommendation, and that they each submit a signed plan to Jenny Darnell.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it with those contingencies.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 10, consider renewal of alcoholic beverage license for a period of 7/1/11 to 6/30/12. Madam Clerk, you're on again.
This is the annual renewal time for the upcoming year for liquor licensing, July 1st, 2011 to June 30th, 2012. We've got, most of the applicants are, the paperwork is in order and they're ready to be considered. There was just a few that I added on a separate page about some establishments that either they haven't submitted their application yet or there's outstanding debt owed to the city. Let's see, there was someone that had some paperwork changes that haven't been received yet, and then a couple other establishments. The Dibbo's application, that's kind of a different situation because there's a wine license that's been filed, an application for a wine license that's been filed for the cafe part, and that cafe part is included on the alcohol license for Dibbo's. So when they get the lease figured out for the cafe, then I thought we could consider the wine license and the renewal license at the same time.
Okay.
And they're willing to change their application so that the cafe part isn't part of the alcohol license establishment when they get all the lease things figured out. So that one's just kind of on hold until we get more information back.
Okay.
There
Any
might be some
Go ahead.
concerns about the building inspection or the fire inspection. We're not exactly sure about, the layout of the premises and, how the areas can be separated and controlled. So that was another concern that we're working with David Gray and trying to make sure that's in line too before the approval goes through.
We're ahead of the game from last year, aren't we? With the
Way
number.
ahead.
Yep, we're way ahead, so.
Yeah. And then there was one other establishment, and that's the Ellie's on Main, and I just wanted to remind council about the September 7th, 2010 minutes and the attorney letter that was agreed to the conditions on that letter as far as permitting alcohol on the deck. And as far as I know, David Gray hasn't received a building permit yet.
As of today.
That would be for the concrete wall barrier
As of today.
as of today. Well, earlier this morning today, anyway. I don't know if anything happened later on. So
Okay.
that's all I've got.
Is there a motion to approve the license
I'll
renewal?
I'll recuse myself from the approval process
Okay.
of the first.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do you want to specify at least?
Sure.
Either read the licensees or indicate the licensees named on the front page and the back?
Mr. Mayor, I'm only recusing myself, I guess, from Class A liquor and beer off-sale liquor stores.
Okay,
So you could take them separately.
okay, we'll do them separate. Yeah, why don't you go ahead?
Class B liquor and B beer, Hanson Golf Holdings doing business as Hudson Golf Club, Barker's Landing doing business as Barker's Bar and Grill. Double Diamond Ventures doing business as Pier 500. Cuisine Enterprise Inc. doing business as Windsor Stube. Dick's Bar of Hudson doing business as Dick's Bar. HAG Inc. doing business as Pudge's Bar and Liquor Store. D&J's of Hudson doing business as Hudson Bowling Center. Wisman Hospitality LLC doing business as San Pedro Cafe. Red Sub Inc. doing business as Best Western Hudson House Inn. Sports Club Inc. doing business as Sports Club. Applebee's Restaurants North LLC doing business as Applebee's Neighborhood Grill and Bar. Hudson Spirits LLC doing business as Buffalo Wild Wings Grill and Bar number 164. Universal Hospitalities LLC doing business as Agave Kitchen. Fiesta LLC doing business as La Fiesta Mexicana. Nova of Hudson LLC doing business as the Nova of Hudson. Shanghai Hudson LLC doing business as Shanghai Bistro. And Badger Hospitalities LLC doing business as Green Mill Hudson.
So Rich, is that the one you'd like to make a motion to
I'll
approve?
make a motion for the, yes, Class B liquor and B beer, and B beer.
Yep. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Class A liquor and A beer.
Spirit Cellar LTD doing business as Spirit Cellar. Historic Casanova Liquors doing business as Historic Casanova Liquors. SFG Corporation doing business as Northland Liquors. Chaconi's Liquor doing business as Chaconi's Liquor Mart. And Mobu LLC doing business as Hudson Liquor.
This is where I'll recuse
Okay,
myself.
thank you, Randy.
Move
Excuse
to
me.
approve.
Is there a
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
Could I just have the
Sure.
consideration that the fire and building inspections need to be successfully completed, and we talked about having them pay their May utility bills before the due date, and
Auxiliary
having them
fund.
return the stockholder auxiliary form
Sure.
as contingencies.
Sure.
I want to talk about that item. I don't know if we can talk about it now. But
Sure.
I want to, because it'll end up, I'd like to change that. I think this is redundant at most for this to stockholders auxiliary form. If we're going to use it, fine, enforce it. If not, let's take it off the books.
Okay.
Well, it's on the books right now.
Well, so I'm suggesting we take it off the books as an ordinance change.
Okay.
In the future.
Yeah,
At a future
yeah,
one?
absolutely.
Okay. So with those additions, is that okay?
Motion will include those contingencies, the completion of building and fire inspections, payment of May utility statements by the due date, and receipt of a current stockholder's auxiliary form.
And that would be for the Class B liquor and beer, too?
Would you like to amend your motion, Mr.
Well, why
Vanslo?
don't we finish this one and then
Okay.
go back.
Is there a second? Lori, you made one motion, and you said,
Seconded.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we'll go back to the first one. Would you like to amend it with those conditions?
Yeah, we'll amend it to take into
And
consideration completion of the
Randy,
building
did you
fire.
second it, or did,
Lori did.
Lori, would you, is that okay with you? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we get to Class C wine and B beer.
Dragon Pearl Chinese Restaurant Inc. doing business as Dragon Pearl Chinese Restaurant. Grubbs Pizzeria and Eatery Inc. Borden Land Holdings doing business as Bricks Neapolitan Pizza. C&L Pizza LLC doing business as Doughboys Pizza. Regma Inc. doing business as Keys Cafe and Bakery. Tim La Dolce Vita doing business as Urban Allen and Vine.
Move to approve with the same contingencies.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second with same contingencies.
Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Class B, beer only.
Northfield Restaurant Corp. doing business as Pizza Hut. And May S. Zhao doing business as Kingdom Buffet.
Move to approve with the same contingencies.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you. Consider insurance requirements for fireworks permits and taxi cab services, ordinance number 8-11. Nancy? Or do you want me, go ahead.
Well, I think you could probably
No,
explain it a
you're
little
fine,
better
go ahead.
than I could. It was just noticed that there was some language in the two insurance areas of those sections where the company it said to be
Licensed.
licensed, and it should say approved, just so that.
Authorized.
Authorized.
Sorry.
It's just a wording issue. A lot of the people that do insurance aren't licensed in the state, but they're authorized through a secondary. So we're just
It was
cleaning that-
recommended by the Insurance Commission that,
Yep.
that this terminology be used. And then the other part that's being changed is the limit for the amount of coverage needed for the taxi services from 100,000 to 500,000. That hasn't been increased since, probably since it was originally put in the,
I think it's a
the code.
very reasonable number. $500,000.
What kind of percentage increase is that for the owners?
Oh, gosh, not a whole lot. On a liability policy, probably a couple $100 a year.
and the change, I think, making it authorized instead of licensed, they should be able to find companies that are more able to,
Give them better rates.
to write their policies.
So do we want a first reading?
You'd just be recommending.
Recommending, yes. So we don't need a motion. Do we need a motion to well, yes, we need to get a motion to recommend this to council.
I'll move that we recommend it to full council.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Request from the Hudson Fire Department to increase the firefighter roster. Chief Fry.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm asking to be able to increase the roster by one temporarily. As we've discovered in the past, when we hire people in twos or threes, we have better retention of those people. Like recently, started two people into their entry level firefighter, and they'll be done the 1st of June. I'd like to be able to put both of them on the roster at the same time so they can continue and finish their schooling together and take calls and that kind of thing. The cost of that is about $2,800 for the rest of 2011.
Chief Fry's worked it into his budget, so Public Safety recommended approval, so I'll move for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? And then Chief Fry, if someone leaves or retires, you're not going to, you're just keep it at the
Yeah,
30
I'll go
days?
back to the 40.
Any other?
To get them through training.
Yeah, and so that they partner up, they stick together. I've had good luck with retention when we do them in pairs. When we do them in singles, they tend to don't stick around very long.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Application for amusement device owners and license and device permits. We have one for Vanda Jean McGee for Dibbles.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Excuse me, Sean, are you set to go? Resolution 7-11, review proposals and award for the issuance and sale of approximately $3.530 million in GO bonds, Series 211A. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I want to go through the results of the sale that we put out on the $3,530,000. Just quickly as background, did all of you receive the official statement in the mail, hopefully? Okay. This document is what is used to market the debt, both to either local investors or investors nationwide. And so the bidders who put in bids this morning were using this document for that purpose. The handout that I just circulated is the summary or review of the results of the competitive sale. that occurred at 10 o'clock this morning. And if you go one page in, their front back, and you see the page on the title that says Moody's assigns AA2 rating, or AA2, to City of Hudson's 3.5 million GO promissory notes. Just want to spend a second. As part of the process for the issuance of the debt, we did go through the process of getting the city re-rated. I think I talked about it the last meeting I was at, that the city was at that AA2 level, which is a very, very strong rating. I think we had a real good discussion. The mayor was there, Devin, myself, Denny Darnold, and Steve Tracy, the city's auditor, also attended that, and one of his coworkers as well. And we had a discussion, a little less than an hour, just reviewing what's going on in Hudson, what's the purpose of this issue. And as you'll see, if you read through the report, it's a very positive review of the city of Hudson. One thing that I would direct your attention to, just more looking forward, is on the, I guess it's the second page, where at the top you'll see what could move the rating up and what could move the rating down. I like that Moody's puts this in their ratings because it kind of gives you a sense as to where you are, but actions that the council, some you have in your control, some you don't in the future, to be thinking about related to your bond rating. What could move it up? Strengthening of the city's liquidity and general fund reserves. Well, if you read the report, you'll see that they note that you have strong reserves now. Moving them up could potentially get you to a higher rating, which is AA1 and AAA is the highest rating. But it would take big movement there, as well as you'll see the second point, substantial economic expansion or tax-based growth. Well, that's really, you can promote activities to help get that started and move in that direction, but the broader economic conditions probably dictate that more than anything else. So you're doing most everything you can in that section, in my opinion. What could move it down? I think this is probably the most important. Deterioration of the city's tax base or weakening of the demographic profile. There has been 2 years, I think, in a row of equalized value has gone down, but that's very consistent with what's been going all across the state as well as across the border in Minnesota. But you did have such nice growth previous to that you're still in a very strong position. Weakening of the demographic profile, that's not really in your hands, but I think given the attractiveness of the city, that's pretty unlikely to occur. But the other one, and this is probably the most important, declines in the city's fund balance and liquidity. That is the one area where we've seen, if there is downgrades that are given to communities, it's usually because of the constraints of levy limits and the challenges of budgeting in the current economic situations, tapping into the fund balance. Communities have chosen to do it maybe on one-year basis or to small amounts, and that's been accepted. But if it's a continual situation where you're drawing down on it with no plan to build it back up, those are the kind of steps or actions that down the road would potentially lead to a downgrade in the rating. Downgrade in the rating, all other things equal, higher interest rates is really what that ends up meaning. Okay, so again, report very positive about the city, and encourage you to read through it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer it. But Moody's did look very favorably at the city. If we can go from there, the bid tabulation is the next section I'd like to spend a minute on. We got 10 bids this morning for the issue. And if you'll page through the next 2 pages, you'll see the bidders. They range from bidders in and around Wisconsin to all across the country. There's a bid from Memphis, Tennessee, Denver, Colorado, Chicago, Kansas City, Leawood, Kansas. So you can see that the high rating also gives you, I think, or gives bidders more comfort to consider Hudson, whereas if you didn't have this high rating, they may think, I don't know Hudson from any other community in Wisconsin, so I'm not going to put a bid in. But you'll also notice if you look at the true interest rates that particularly at the top, very competitive bidding. So a lot of interest and very competitive bidding for the city's debt, which is good to see. The winning bid with a combined interest rate of 2.3765% is from a bidder out of Madison, Wisconsin, Bankers Bank, My suspicion is that they are also looking, because a lot of their clients are local banks, to have some of the local banks participate in that. I didn't get official word of that, but I'd be surprised if that is not the case. So a really good bid. If you go to the next page after the bid tab, City of Hudson, $3,530,000 general obligation promissory notes. What I wanted to mention here is we did have the pre-sale report from a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago actually, I think, as I recall. And this is the results. The boxed in section here compares what we discussed at the pre-sale to the bids today. About $121,000 less in interest expense than what we had talked about. You know, we had reasonably conservative rates, but the market has continued to move in our direction, so hence the substantial improvement. We had rates at that time projected at 3.02%, and again, that combined rate with the winning bid from Bankers Bank is at 2.37%. So very, very strong bid. The exhibit right behind that, projection of total city debt levy with 2011 notes. We had this exhibit as well in the pre-sale report. What I just wanted to remind the Finance Committee and the Council tonight, this is looking at your budgets going forward with all of the debt that Hudson has outstanding using general obligation debt. So where we structured this issue and the restructuring of the 2005 notes and 2010 notes, you're set at the same level as you were in this past budget year, so levy 2010 for 2011. And the other thing, and Moody's certainly looks at this very favorably in looking at the city's debt, is all of your debt as it sits right now is paid off by 2021, which is a very rapid amortization as compared to other communities. So again, those are all strong positives for Hudson. Last thing on this handout, and just in terms of where the interest rates have been, I direct your attention to the green line on this final page. From late October through January, rates spiked up pretty dramatically, but since then they have trended downward, and they're very, very attractive. This is a 2-year review. If we were looking at this over 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you'd see, historically speaking, overall, we're at a very, very low point. In the 2-year spectrum, we're about in the middle of where rates have been over the last 2 years. In terms of action for the committee and then ultimately for the council this evening, there's a resolution that was put together by the city's bond council, Quarles and Brady. Approval of the resolution would accept the bid from Bankers Bank and lock into the rates that I talked about in the sale report. But before Finance Committee action, if there's any questions on it, I'd be happy to answer those.
So the 121,000 is additional funds for capital expenditure. Would that be a fair statement?
Actually, Mayor, that's the interest savings.
Okay, the interest savings,
yep.
yeah. The actual amount that we have available is 20?
It's about 29,000 additional for capital costs than what we had talked about. Main reason is cost of issuance and discount allowance, which is the cost of issuance, were lower with the competitive bids than what was projected at the pre-sale report.
Okay.
That's correct, Mayor.
So there's a additional, was it 29?
About 29,000.
Okay.
Yep.
Any questions? Anybody have any questions for John?
No, but I'll move to recommend we adopt resolution number 711 to the next, for the city council.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Morissette?
Yes.
Bernard?
Yes.
Bansal?
Yes.
Virgil?
Yes. Thank you. Item 16, amendment to assessment services agreement with Acura Appraisal LLC for a 2011 reevaluation.
City staff's been working with Accurate Appraisals, who has a contract for 2011 revaluation, 2012 maintenance assessment contract. There's a glitch in the software considerations that the city requested. We requested Market Drive. Accurate Appraisal has Market Drive, but City Hudson uses a more advanced program. The 2011 program is a little more advanced. We went back and forth on how we could bring Accurate up to our program. Some of those would have compromised the security of the city computer system because of remote access. We didn't want to do that. Secondly, there were some licensing considerations that we did not want to jeopardize our license with Assessment Technology as the software vendor. So discussions went back and forth. We think we have found a way of addressing it. The city, we've insisted, that there be no additional costs to the city. And what has at least been verbally struck with Accurate Appraisals is that we would purchase additional licenses, any servers, hardware considerations, implementation by the technology department or the assessment department would be charged against the contract amount. And before we would pay them, we would deduct that cost of ours against their monthly billings for contract, and then we would pay them a net. So it doesn't cost us additional cost, but it does. And the reason we're bringing it tonight is we really need to move this along because we need to make sure we're advancing our assessment program in a timely fashion this year. So we don't have the full agreement. Catherine's working on it, Mike's working on it, Liz and I are working on it. What I respectfully request is if we can work within the concept and then have upon the final agreement that would be sent to Accurate Appraisals for their reconsideration, make sure that we're still within the verbal agreements or handshake considerations that we've made to date, that's still true. If we can get then the mayor or the city administrator to sign that upon agreement rather than have to wait 2 weeks to bring it back is what we respectfully request. Catherine and I'd be pleased to answer any questions. But it should not be a net increase in cost to the city. That cost would be deducted from the contract amount that's already established.
Do you have a price yet or an estimated cost?
No, that's what we were hoping to have tonight,
Yep.
and we don't.
Okay.
We've been trying, but there's a lot of, between getting the license costs, getting the cost of the IT department, what it'd be to buy equipment or server capacity. That information is not quite ready yet.
Okay. Do you feel comfortable with that, folks? I mean,
It all falls within the budget?
yep. We're not asking, but it will be an amendment on the our
There will be a
contract.
formal amendment, correct, and for some reason Assessment or Accurate Appraisal does not agree to that. Now they've verbally agreed to it, and Kathy and I will have to come back and, maybe the possibility then is to terminate the
Right.
assessment agreement.
This has been going on for what, 3 months?
Couple of months, yeah.
We've been trying to
Trying to
find
work
different
this
ways to
issue out.
solve this, and this looks like the best possible way to solve it.
I would agree.
Are we fairly confident it's going to?
Well, as confident as I can be today. Some of it's going to depend on what our final cost is, submittal to them, and we don't have that number yet. So,
Mike's working on that to get the estimated costs.
Well, what's needed from us at this point? I mean, there's too many.
Well, I think you want to have a recommendation to the council to authorize, and I think it would need to be the mayor, authorize the mayor to execute a contract that accomplishes what Denny has just described. In other words, the city purchasing these additional licenses and related costs and deducting any costs it incurs from its contract price with Accurate Appraisals.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? I think at this point, we're getting so late in the game that if we can't get something done real quick here, I think we're gonna have to, we're just late in the game, and we're not gonna be able to accomplish.
we still think this will work, but
You're
we
right.
got to get it done as quickly as possible.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Denny. Review cost information on credit card system to accept payments.
The last meeting, Randy asked me to check with Betty, former finance officer. I did speak with her last week. The firm that she was meeting with, discussing with, was the one that Mike had contacted, which is on the second page there. That is the one that is tied into our, would tie directly into our utility billing system, as opposed to having something external that we'd have to do manual entries. So that's the information she had. She forwarded it last March to the water utility director, and that was the last correspondence I saw on it in her files. So that's the information that I have on that.
All right, well, I'd like to clarify that there's two different issues here. When I first initially brought this up, it was for online payment. We are probably not in a point without a finance director to do the online payments without going through too many hoops to address that need. However, I would, and where I confused the issue earlier on in other meetings was, I want counter payments at the front desk, which we can have terminals for credit card or debit card payments over through our bank at Associate Bank for a small fee. Doesn't even cost us to probably hook it up, maybe a minimal startup cost. So there's two different issues here. When I first brought it up, I assumed everything. What I'm doing or suggesting we look at doing now at this point in time is counter payments for any fees outstanding, any kind of payment. They get over 10 to 15 a day requests to use debit cards, and they want to use the rewards on it. So it can be worked out through the bank, our local depositor, at a nominal fee.
The question, and I certainly can follow up on that, the question I'd have is, how will that information get into the utility bill system? And that's, maybe they have a way to do that. Because otherwise, for staff, then you're having them.
The software, as it was explained to me, can accept credit card payments in the computer system. So you run the card, swipe the card for a dog license, and you put it in the computer, and then you do the monthly balance sheet at the end of the month.
What I'm saying though is how does it get it, the only question I would have is how does it get in the utility bill system? Yes, I'm sure it can go into our system.
Not sure we're ready for that yet, but what I'm looking at is everything else. You see what I'm saying?
Right. The bulk of the requests we get are for
Absolutely.
utility bills. But yes.
And I don't know if it would be in the best interest of your staff, Devin, to go ahead with that without a finance director, where they can come in, learn the system, post it, and then educate the rest of your staff on it.
Well, the finance director probably wouldn't be very involved in this. It would be the utility billing clerk that would be the one that would have to, So it's just a question of whether I'm confident that if this is something you wanted to go forward with, our staff could do it.
Okay.
But it's a question then of the cost.
This is going to be at a cost of 2.8% to the city?
Well, let me
This
tell you.
here is, excuse me, Randy, I mean to interrupt. This here is part of the package with the software company that we have our accounting software with. Now Randy's talking, it's directly with, I would assume to be with Associated because that's who we have our banking through.
Right, and at the county, I talked with Treasurer Lori Noble, and they charge for a credit card charge, it's 2.35% above what they're paying for, and a debit card is 3% above what they're paying for.
And we're considering the city to pay that fee, or are the
No,
user
it
of the
would-
cards?
So if you owe $50, does it cost you $53 or whatever percentage it works out?
This type
So
of
the
system would
user would be paying the fee?
Correct.
This would be external. This type of system that Randy's talking about, just for taking bans for dog licenses, those type of things, would be something that'd be completely external to our system. What you're seeing here with the online bill pay, that cost would have to be assumed by the water utility and the sewer utility. And if we had the credit card terminals that are listed here hooked up to that, then the city would be responsible for that cost because it would be alive.
So I'm just suggesting that maybe we just slow it down, do the first part of it first, which is very minimal cost. I don't have it. We have to talk to the bank. And then when we get a finance director on board, the website that the county uses is the bank server out of Las Vegas, and they do same-day payment processing, and they charge very minimal. There's some other ways to look.
So do you want to table this until we get more information?
Well, we could, sure.
Postpone, excuse me.
I'll move to postpone it for just the counter payment service at this point in time.
Okay. And then Devin, you can look into that with Associated Bank and see what the costs involved are. Is that clear as mud for everybody?
Well, the other thing I checked would be the cost, and just for any utility bills that we would take at the counter, what the process would be to get the information on who that bill
And that's an
belongs to.
internal posting.
Right, and how that, what it would involve for staff to get it posted.
Okay, that's reasonable. We don't need a motion on that, do we?
I think you
I
did
did
make a
move the
motion.
post.
Oh, you did. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Is there a adjournment? Yes.
Could you put on the agenda to look at ordinance 144-10G, and that's the stockholders auxiliary form for liquor license application?
Sure.
And one other item, could you check your calendars for either Tuesday the 17th or Thursday the 19th for potentially interviews for the finance officer? And the 17th or the 19th?
I'm available for both.
Okay, just let me,
You're
Yeah.
not?
What time? did you say?
you know, and that's completely up to you. If you want to, you can do them during the day, we can do them in the evening, whatever. But you can just get back to me on that and let me know.
Okay.
I mean, we can do them during the day as well, if that would be more convenient for people. Doesn't matter. I guess Randy'd be the one that would have to.
Evenings work better.
Evenings work better.
Okay, that's fine. So just get back to me on that,
Okay.
confirm it. And
Any other things for future agenda items?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.